Hey everybody, welcome to the For Knit Sakes channel. My name is Allison and I'm coming to you from El Paso, Texas, where I live with my husband Jonathan, my two sons Levi and Oliver, and our 8-year-old Boston Terrier Lucy. If you are new to the channel, you're watching a podcast that is centered around knitting, crocheting, a little bit of sewing, a little bit of cross stitch, and any other crafts that happen to catch me or my boys' fancy. We've been busy now that summer school is over and we are done with baseball, and I have had lots of time to sit and knit, seeing as how it is very hot outside. It is very difficult to knit when it is 106 degrees and you're sitting at a ball field watching your child play baseball. But we've been spending a lot of time indoors to stay cool and avoiding sunburn, so I have a lot to share today, and I also have knit along winner to share as well. But let's get some other administrative stuff out of the way. If you want to find me on social media, you can find me on Ravelry and Instagram under For Knit Sakes, and you can also join the podcast group on Ravelry. You can either click the link down in the description box, or you can go to the groups tab on Ravelry and just put in For Knit Sakes podcast. I'll put it on the screen down here so you guys can see it. And we'll see if we have any more knit-alongs to come up anytime soon. I just closed the thread on the stash busting knit-along that was going on from the beginning of the year until July the 1st. I kept it open until July the 3rd, until the day that I was planning on podcasting, which is today, which is July the 3rd, the day before the 4th of July. And I had 36 posts, well 35 because my first one doesn't count, and out of the 36 it was lots of socks, there was a few shawls, but a lot of stash busting was going on. I'm gonna do a little year or 6 month in review. I put it on Instagram the other day of what I've done so far these first 6 months, and I had 28 finished objects and 11 squares on my Cozy Memories blanket. I'm working on the 12th right now, and out of those 28 finished objects I had, I'm looking at my little notepad, 8 garments, which 2 were children's and the rest were adults, 3 hats, 2 blankets, 9 pairs of socks, no shawls, surprisingly. I have 1 on the needles, but I haven't knit any shawls yet this year. 4 neck warmers, so like cowls and scarves, and then 2 pairs of fingerless mitts, and that totaled up to 15,151 yards of yarn. And that included crochet and knitting, so that's a lot. And I always kind of think maybe I should be doing some other things other than knitting, but it's what makes me happy, and that's all that matters. So we'll see maybe what I get from now until the end of the year. I have plenty of projects waiting in the queue to get done, and I might switch my idea of doing 1 pattern sock a month and switch to doing more garments, just because I feel like I have to get those socks done, but I would much rather be working on other things. And you should be working on things that make you happy, right? Right. Okay, so our knit along winner will receive this beautiful skein of the Creative Obsession yarn. Thank you, Carrie, so much again for donating it. It is named Stardust, and it is 75% merino, 20% nylon, and 5% gold stellina. Can we see the stellina? Yep, there it is. Along with the skein of yarn, the winner will also be receiving this nice, like, over-the-arm sock knitting bag in this fun galaxy print fabric, which I think goes very well with the yarn that Carrie donated. And so I used random number generator to pick a number between 2 and 36, and it chose number 3, which was Sharon, who is S. Vance on Ravelry. I forget what was on her post, and I feel terrible because I was just looking at it. But Sharon, you have won. If you can get to me on Instagram or Ravelry to let me know your address, I will figure out the best way to ship it, because I know that you are in Canada. And I will get this and all your fun stuff for participating. Thank you so much for everybody else who participated. There was a crochet blanket in there, lots of pairs of socks, a few cowls, lots of fun stuff. And surprisingly, as I was scrolling through, everybody doesn't live in the United States, and that's that's perfectly okay. But I was looking at everybody that had participated, and I have 2 Canadians, I have a New Zealander, I have somebody from Switzerland, and that's really cool that you ladies watch my podcast. So thank you so much for watching. As usual, I'm always very grateful for the people that do stop by and hang out with me whenever I record, because I know I do tend to go off the rails a little bit and ramble, at least at the end. I try to keep it to the end of the podcast, so we'll see. Today will probably be no different, but I do have a time limit because we are going to the splash pad at 11 because, again, I live in El Paso. The sun is trying to kill us, and it is hot. So where did I put, there it is, our writing prompt for today. And I chose the question, how do you soothe yourself when you are upset? And I said, I usually cry it out, and then I find somebody that I can talk to about it. Usually it's my husband, Jonathan, or it's some internet friends that I can message through Facebook. Moving so often, it's usually easier to communicate with people via Facebook Messenger or iMessage or text message on the phone than it is to try to call people, especially since a majority of my friends have children. And if you have kids, you know how difficult it is to make any sort of phone call, because usually as soon as that phone hits your ear, it turns into an all-out, I need XYZ immediately, and I'm not going to stop bothering you until it happens. So, and then usually I'll knit or sew or crochet and like watch a podcast or watch a movie that makes me feel good, and to try to help me feel better about what's going on. So unfortunately, that's been happening quite a lot so far this year, since like November of 2016, but we won't get into that. But I also posted on Instagram the other day of my Make 9 2018. I reshared the picture that I shared from the beginning of the year, and I marked which ones I had already finished, and I've done 6 out of the 9. Now the 3 that are left, it's a Madewell sweater by Hohi, the Doo-Wop shawl by Lisa Hans, and the Campside shawl by Alicia Plummer. I'm not really quite sure if I'm going to make those, because all of them I would need to buy yarn in order to make them, and I have so many projects, including like 5 sweaters worth of yarn, that I need to knit up first before I buy any new yarn. So since I did knit from my stash a lot the first half of the year, but I did also buy a fair amount of yarn. Thank you, Carrie from the Creative Obsession, for having so many sales. I'm not blaming her by any means. And Knit Picks also for having sales. So I'm probably going to knit a lot from my stash for the last half of the year as well. And maybe I can figure out some sort of knit-alongs to go with it. We'll wait and see. Today I don't have any ideas, but maybe while I'm sitting at the splash pad I can think of some. So, but out of my 6 of my 9 that I have finished, I did my Making a Memory hat, the Zweig, my pavement sweater, my walk along tee. So that's 3 garments that I finished in 6 months. My Wishmaker mitts and my speckled space socks. So it's kind of exciting to like get things off my list. I'm very much a project knitter. I like to have the finished object. I do enjoy making them, but I'm more motivated to finish them than it is to like take my time to do things, if that makes sense. So, but let's get into what you all came here for, to see what I'm working on and what I finished. And I will start with the sweater I was working on last time, which is the Abate sweater by Alicia Plummer. It's like the child's version of Ease for adults. I've had this pattern for quite a while. And this is the second one I've knit, but the first one I've knit with the collar and the little drawstring here. And the pattern calls for worsted weight yarn, but I did DK weight because that's what I had. And DK is fairly close to worsted. And I adjusted my needles to use 7s for the body and US 5s for the cuffs and the hem. And I ended up with a perfect in-between size. I knit the size 8, and I ended up with something closer to a 6-7. So it's a little big on Oliver, but it fits Levi perfectly, but he'll probably grow out of it fairly quickly. The yarns that I used were Hamden Hills Alpaca. This is a silk alpaca blend on top, and then the black on the bottom is some Knit Picks Swish DK. And I used basically all of what I had of the Swish DK here and on the sleeves. And then I still have a fair amount left of the gray, shades of gray Hamden Hills alpaca. So I think I'm gonna make a little cowl just because it's really soft to wear when it does get cold, and when we move to Alaska, we'll need these warmer garments and things to wear when it's really cold outside. So other than that, it was a very easy and fun knit. I did not alternate skeins, so that's why I have some pooling going on the sleeves as well as on the body, but Oliver really likes it. I really like it. I think it's cute. I'm definitely going to make another one in greens for Oliver, and hopefully they'll get some wear out of it before they grow out of them, because they grow like weeds, and you know, it's gonna be like that until they're adults, right? Second finished object were my wavy socks, which were in Clara Park's book, The Knitter's Book of Yarn, and I misspoke last episode. I thought that you could buy the pattern on Ravelry, and it is only available in the book. So if you happen to have a knitting guild that has the book in their library, or friends that have it, you can always borrow it that way. If not, the book has a fair amount of decent patterns that I think is worth it if you can find like a used copy. But here are my wavy socks. It's a little bright. Let's see if I can. Okay, I decided to make shorties because making these socks have made me realize that I do not like cabling. And these cables weren't even that difficult, but they were too many. They were 3x3 cables. They were too much that I couldn't cable without a cable needle. So I had to have a cable needle on hand, but they worked out quite perfectly as far as the striping was concerned. The stripes do go in opposite directions, but they like almost line up from beginning to end, but just in the opposite directions. And then the stripes ended up perfectly in the middle of striping on the heels. So the placement of the stripes worked out really great on these, and these will be nice lightweight socks for in between weather, like to wear to the bus stop. And I did an afterthought heel on these instead of, I don't remember what the pattern called for in the book. I'll put it in a little bar down below. And I did mine toe up instead of cuff down, because that's kind of like what I like to do. So those are my two finished objects for this podcast, but I have lots of half finished objects. And one is my sport weight sock in my Knit Picks Hawthorne that Carrie so graciously sent me. And these made some really long socks. I don't remember the last time I knit such a long sock. And if you've watched me on the podcast for a while, you will agree that I don't knit long socks just because I kind of tend to get bored. But Sport Weight knits up so quickly that I started these so I could work on them in or during baseball games for my sons. And I found I really wasn't working on them a whole lot because it's too hot, my hands got too sweaty, and it was really difficult to work with the yarn. But this is Hawthorne Sport. It's probably closer to a DK. It's 44 stitches on a US 2 needle. I have very long feet. I have a size 10 foot, but they're also very skinny, and I like my socks to fit very snug. And the way the yarn worked, it just kind of like did this cool pooling down the sock, so it kind of just like gradually makes its way down. And I did an afterthought heel and a twisted rib on the top, and I worked until I had about 50 grams left. So I'm hoping the second sock doesn't end up short, but I think I have a little over 50 grams left for the second sock. And one thing I did with this sock was I did a 1x1 rib around the arch of my foot so that it could be a little bit more snug, and it fits great. So if you like to do vanilla socks but you don't like how they fit around the arch or your instep on your foot, add in, this was 15 rows of 1x1 rib here on the sock, and I was able to try it on as I was doing the ribbing, so I wasn't going to go too far up into my heel because I did them toe up. So these are my Sport Weight socks. I did start the second one, but I am not very far on it. My other half finished object is a test knit for Kay, who is the crazy sock lady on Ravelry and Instagram. She just moved to Arizona, so I'm sure she can share in the woes of being hot all the time and ridiculously high electric bills. And we don't even keep the AC very low. It's on 78 or 80 during the day. When I podcast, I turn it down to 74 just so it doesn't cut on, and then I immediately put it back up to 80, and I have to record like first thing in the morning. So I am test knitting her Follow Your Path socks. It has not been released yet, but it should be released sometime this month or maybe early next month. She's pretty quick about getting her patterns out, and it is a really fun 4-row repeat textured sock with an Eye of Partridge heel, which, you guys, I have not done a heel flap and gusset in such a long time, and I really love the way it looks, but I don't enjoy doing a heel flap and gusset, especially on a textured sock, because I'm trying to remember if it's a decrease round, and then I have to remember what row of the pattern that I'm on, and it's just too much for my brain sometimes. It's a lot easier just to knit a tube and then worry about that heel later on. But that's just the way I like to do it. Other people are different, and that's perfectly fine. So I'll get up close so you can kind of see the texture. This yarn isn't too busy. It is a Piraten Vola 75-25 blend yarn. You can kind of see more of how the yarn looks down here in the stockinette part on the bottom of the foot, but it's just yellows with some pops of pink and this like charcoaly gray, almost black color. So a nice long cuff here, and then I did not like a long leg, but not a short leg either, and then a rounded toe at the end. It's a very, very simple, very fast. It kind of like knits itself knit, and I told Kay that I'm like, it's very easy to memorize the 4-row repeat, and then you're just knitting, knitting, knitting. And I did these on US zeros just because that's my preferred sock needle size, so I can get them nice and snug. There's lots of give on these, so these would also make a really good gift knit if you're wanting something more than just a plain ribbed sock or a plain vanilla sock for somebody for the holidays, because we're getting close to you guys. It's July. December will be here before you know it. So, and then I kind of have one more half object, but I don't think I can really count it just because I haven't cut the sock apart and I haven't put in heels, but I've gotten pretty far on my Lorax sock. This is yarn from Yarn and You, who is Yarn and You girl on Ravelry, and she has a really fun podcast. She lives up in the Pacific Northwest, close to where Carrie and the Naughty Knitwits live. Excuse me, I have something in my eye. So I'm marking every 10 to 20 rows. This might be every 20 rows down here, and then right here is where I'm going to cut the sock in half to do the toes. So now I'm working on the foot of the second half of, or the second sock, and I'm doing these on 9-inch circs, which I used to say I really disliked, but they're really great for projects like this when I'm just knitting a tube. Now, I don't know if anybody here that watches is interested, but I plan on doing a very, because I only own an iPhone for video making, I want to do a tutorial. I promise you guys I can speak real words. I want to do a tutorial on how I'm going to cut this apart for when I do the toes and the heels. Now, if anybody would be interested, because I've only seen one other video on the internet that does an Afterthought Everything heel, but she did a provisional cast on and just knit a tube and then added on cuffs, toes, and heels. But, you know, everybody learns differently, so why not have one more video to show you how to do it? So I think I'm going to try, when I'm done with this, to video how I'm going to pick up the stitches and how I'm going to cut for the toes and the heels and make a little video for it, because everybody likes to learn, right? It'll be a learning experience for me too, and then if you don't see a video come up, you'll just know that everything went awry and it didn't work. It should be fairly simple. I overthink everything though. If you know me at all, you know that that's true. So I think I've done 60 rows for the leg and then 70 rows for the foot. So 60 plus 70 is 130. So I have to do 130 rows on this side, and I'm only 10, 20, 30, 40 almost to 50. So not quite halfway there, but these are just my out and about when I'm sitting waiting for appointments and stuff kind of socks. So I have too many sock whips on the needles for myself, and I want them gone. So I'm trying to get them done. I'll show you my brioche cowl really quick. I have made quite a lot of progress because this is something I really like, the rhythm of brioche. It's so cool looking. I like the rhythm of brioche, but sometimes I don't have the mental capacity, especially if I end up dropping a stitch. I sometimes just want to throw it across the room. My husband, he saw the outside. This is for him. He saw the outside and he's like, oh, it's really cool. Like, just kind of like, okay, it's just another cowl, which he's done before. But then I showed him the other side and he's like, whoa, I really like that. So because of like the beauty of brioche, you can, sorry, I can see my husband's notifications. He just got a really cool re-enlistment gift for the Army. He's re-enlisted like 4 or 5 times. And he's always gotten like, here's a t-shirt, and everybody else are getting like external hard drives and stuff. And he finally just sent me one. It looks like a coffee tumbler. So I'll show you guys the inside out. I'm just making sure I don't drop any stitches. The other side, look how cool that is. This is where I had a knot in my yarn. This is Noro sock yarn. So it's like silk and bamboo and wool and a whole bunch of different other things, but it's a single ply yarn, but it's these gradual striping. So it cut off right here, which would have meant I would have gone back to this green color, but it started down here again. So I'm just kind of re-going through all this. And I think it's actually going in the opposite direction now that I'm looking at it. Interesting. So, but I'm just knitting until I run out of the gray, which is like the premier sock yarn, like Deborah Norville. You can buy it from Joann. They're very inexpensive. I just needed like a plain color to go with all of the striping of the other one. And I just did 120 stitches on size 5 needles. Nothing special, nothing fancy there. I just work on it when I want to. It was supposed to be my baseball knitting, but brioche with sweaty hands, trying to watch a baseball game wasn't working, so that's why I started more socks, which is why I have all the socks on the needles that I do. What you gonna do? Okay, 2 more, and then I'll be done. I've done really well on time. I hope I'm not speaking too quickly, but my last knitting work in progress is my Girl from the Grocery Store shawl by Joji Locatelli, and I haven't been working on this a whole lot because I picked up the test knit for Kay and I needed to have a sock finish by the 11th. So now I can start working on this again. It's gotten much longer, no more shalkini, a shawl bikini bottom. So I'm on the last panel repeat before the lace. So I think I have, how many do I have? So I have 7 more repeats of this, I'm pointing to this, but it's not on camera, left. And this is Yarn Cafe Creations in the chocolate orange colorway, which is really pretty. I'll hold it up a little closer. And if you buy this, it matches perfectly with Knit Pick Stroll in the blue topaz colorway. So if you're looking for colors that match up, the teals match up exactly with the blue topaz here. So I've just been doing a lot of garter stitch. A lot. So the chocolate orange colorway has some orange and some brown, and then a little bit of these pops of the blue topaz coordinating color and some purpley pinks. I'd say it's kind of like a purpley, but it's really pretty. I got this in the Get Your Yarn Wishes Granted. I had a follower on Instagram from Canada offer to send me a skein of it, and she did. She sent it in a vacuum sealed bag to save on postage, and I'm kind of thinking of doing the same for my knit along prize because it makes it smaller and more compact and cheaper to ship. And that's being held in a bag that I made myself. I showed it on the podcast. It's got my little geckos on it, green with some yellow yellow straps, and I need to do some more sewing because I have some more sock arm bags that I'm going to be sending to some fellow podcaster friends that they can use for their knit-alongs. But I need to sit down and make them. And I've also rearranged all of my craft stuff again. I am a chronic reorganizer. I move things around all the time. And so I actually just put my sewing machine away so it wasn't out all the time. So now I actually have to have intent to bring it out and work on it. Okay, last work in progress, and it's gonna be fairly short. I have made all of these magic cakes with leftover yarn. My crochet hook got hooked onto my stuff. Leftover from my Cozy Memories blanket and from minis that weren't quite enough to add into my Cozy Memories blanket, and I am working on a corner to corner scrappy blanket. So you can see this yellow up here matches the yellow that's over here by my elbow. So almost all of these yarns have made it into my Cozy Memories blanket already. And so now I'm just making another blanket to use the leftovers of the leftovers. No yarn left behind in my house. Every little piece gets used. I've decided for any worsted leftovers, I'm gonna go buy the larger pom-pom makers and I'm gonna make a wreath so that I can hang it. It's not even gonna be Christmas related, it's just gonna be a yarn wreath that I'll just add pom-poms in until it's full and use it as a decoration because I'm not gonna waste anything. But what do you do with all the little bits and pieces of worsted yarn? It's not enough to make a blanket out of. Whereas fingering weight, I have plenty of that. So I think I've made it about halfway through this first magic cake, and I have 2 others, so I have about 300 grams ready to go, and I figured that'll probably get me about half of a blanket before I would need to either start decreasing or make it longer. I haven't decided if I want a square or if I want a rectangle. That's kind of the beauty of the corner to corner. You can kind of decide as you go. Whereas if I just made a granny stripe or a circular one, I would have to make that decision from the very beginning. So, my corner to corner. I work on that when I can. It's gonna be a long-term project just like this guy. I just found in my Facebook memories, I started this 2 years ago, and I don't have a whole lot of squares on it. It's enough for one of the kids to use as a blanket, and that's it. So, one thing I'll talk about, we dyed some yarn earlier this week. I ordered some gel food coloring off of Amazon, and it was the dropper bottles instead of the Wilton pots because it's so much easier to drop 1 or 2 drops in the water instead of trying to scoop and measure, especially if I wanted to try to replicate colors later on down the road. So I found some, I think I had like fisherman's wool, and this was some other wool that I had hanging out, and I had about 30 grams left of a cream colored regia in my stash that will be just enough to make some shorties if I use different yarn for the heels, toes, and cuffs. So this is what we got. The 2 top ones here are the mystery wools and the fisherman's wool. Levi dyed this one over here. This one I dyed in a pot on the stove, and then this one I hand painted as well. Sorry you guys, I'm staring at the computer screen and I'm not thinking correctly lefts and rights. So I think this one looks a lot like cotton candy, and so I used some blues, some purple, and some pink. This one was just plain blue, pretty much just the tonal. I think it's pretty much a solid. There's not a whole lot of variation. And then Levi used blues, orange, pinks, and I think a little bit of purple in there. But this is what he did. And we just hand painted it using some paintbrushes and some cups of paint. And I think I want to make a sweater's quantity of the purple in here and the navy. So I have to try to figure out how I can replicate the same colorway using food dyes on 6 to 7 skeins of yarn. So if anybody is a dyer out there that watches this, I know I'm a very small channel here, but if you guys can help me out, I don't want to use the acid dyes just because my kitchen has to stay clean of other things for other reasons because of Oliver's celiac. But I'm trying to think of ways I can replicate it on 7 skeins of yarn using food dyes without having like huge disparities in colorways. If I'm only using 2 colors, then it should be fairly easy, but I think I'm gonna do some funky heels and toes. Wow, those highlighter colors totally blow out the camera. So the bottom one here is pickle juice and the top one here is highlighter yellow. I'm pretty sure they have highlighter yellow at all times on Knit Picks website. I don't know if I've seen pickle juice recently, but fun and funky socks. They'll probably end up being shorties because 30 grams for the body of the sock isn't a lot, especially when I have size 10 feet. We'll see. And I did get one thing in the mail. It came like the day after I recorded last time, so I've been holding on to it for quite a while. But Carrie from the Creative Obsession, hello, was having a sale around her birthday. And I was trying to find yarn to make a faded sweater using these 2 yarns here. Like I had some yarns, but they didn't quite go together. This top right here, if you remember, it was Dream and Jilly Smushy, I think. And this was yarn when I caked it up. I think bugs got to it because I ended up with this. And this is about 12 different chunks of yarn. Now, I'm planning on making a sweater using these 2 yarns and the one I got from Carrie, but I'm a little worried with this yarn of how much it's going to break apart. I think I'm gonna end up knotting and weaving in ends to make sure that they're nice and secure. If that's a dumb idea, please let me know. And this is an Evil Little Goat B-side colorway. I was gonna use it in a different sweater, but I decided I wanted it in this sweater instead. And so I saw Carrie's yarn on the Naughty Knitwits podcast. Michelle had gotten a skein of yarn to use for a giveaway, and I saw it and I was like, I wonder if that would go with the yarn that I wanted to use for a sweater. So I was a little worried because you know sometimes colors on computer screens can look slightly different, and I was a little worried it was going to be too blue. But then it came in and I can't wait to do this. So Carrie, this is what I'm going to be using for this faded sweater. And then I showed all the blues that I was going to use maybe an episode or 2 ago on another faded sweater, but I have to finish other projects first. I can't start something else. I have the needles and I have the cords in order to start it, but I need to finish other things on my needles so that these can get more attention. Gosh, look how pretty those are. I love it so much. I think I'm gonna have that be my screenshot. Just my eyeballs poking out. My husband doesn't understand like the obsession with yarn. He's perfectly okay with it. He just doesn't understand it. Same reason why I don't quite understand his percussion obsession, but it's his job, so I get it. I'm okay with it, but I don't understand it. Same reason why he doesn't understand like why I have to sit and knit or crochet or do something crafty. I mean, I guess I really don't understand it myself. I just do it. Makes me feel good, right? Anybody else in that same position? So that was one thing that I got in the mail. I haven't gotten anything else in the mail, and I have restrained myself from the new Felici colorways on Knit Picks, as well as the huge summer sale that they had. I will be prepared probably for the Black Friday. They usually have like that Thanksgiving Day sale at the end of the year, and I've been saving up money. I do a little bit per paycheck that we can save for the holidays, and I am going to save a chunk of that to order yarn that I have ideas for in November. So that is all the knitting and crocheting and fibery content for this week. If that's all you came for, then hopefully I will see you guys maybe in the next 2 weeks. My husband gets 2 weeks off after the 4th of July for his block leave, and we have plans to go to San Antonio, but I might try to get a little something in there, and I'm going to try to be more present on Instagram videos, like the stories on top. I probably won't do IGTV just because My kids are always asking me 1,000 questions during the day, so I know I would get interrupted a lot. But we'll see. But if you just came here for the fiber content, then thank you so much for stopping by. Join the podcast group. Maybe I'll have a new knit along coming up. It might be something simple like Christmas in July. If you knit a Christmas present for somebody else in the month of July, then it counts. Or maybe I'll just do like Christmas presents from now until the end of the year. Because who doesn't love a long-term knit along to have plenty of time to participate in? So I'll stop rambling on about knitting, and if you want to hang out and listen to our lives, nothing much has happened, but I will share anyways what's been going on. Grab a drink, grab some knitting, and have a sit with me for a little bit. Bye to all of you that are leaving. Love you. Okay, my coffee is officially cold. So, since June the 14th, we have finished up baseball, thank goodness. And Levi has finished his summer school, so now I officially have the kids all day long, every day. And trying to keep them busy when it's 100 plus degrees outside is very difficult. We already kind of live in a cave. I have lots of curtains over the windows and the sliding door in the back just to try to keep the AC from cutting on all throughout the day. We just got our most recent electric bill, and that kind of hurt a little bit. It's kind of like, oh gosh, that hurt a lot. But it's only for a few months, and it's only for one more year, and then we get to be in the cold. I already have Anchorage, Alaska in my weather app, so I can see what the weather's like, and their highs are in the 60s. Granted, I understand the sun doesn't really set this time of year, but I can handle that if it's 60-degree weather. My husband's also really tired of sweating all the time. The swamp cooler, it's evaporative cooling. For those of you that don't know about them, I didn't even know that they existed. It's basically like if you were to put a bowl of ice in front of a fan. That's kind of how it works. Like it uses humidity to cool your house down, but it's only really effective for like up to 20 degrees. So if it's 106 outside, the coolest you can get your house is 86 if you have an evaporative cooling system. But his work has this system. They don't have refrigerated air, and it's to the point like they've allowed them just to wear their PT clothing, which is just short sleeves and shorts, instead of like the full army like camo. We call them ACU outfits. So he's sweating profusely like every single day at work. And so he's really tired of the heat. But, you know, it's only for August, September, October, November. 4 more months. We can do it, right? Right? It's like not the episode, it's like the level in Mario where the sun is trying to kill you. Like it swoops in and tries to like take you out. That's what it feels like in El Paso. I feel like I've gotten so many more like age spots. You can't really see them like super close, but I've always been super freckly, but I feel like I've gotten more freckles. Again, I have a spot right here on my cheek that wasn't here before we moved, and I wear SPF 50 on my face every single day. It's okay. And then we signed up the kids for swimming lessons in August. Life skills, they need to know how to swim just in case. And they start school at the end of August. And other than that, we are trying to stay cool. We are trying to keep from being sunburned. There hasn't been any sunburns yet this season, so, you know, knock on wood. But I'm also very diligent about like spraying the kids down. We use Sunbum sunscreen, which I love. It's gluten-free, so I don't have to worry about it getting in Oliver's eyes, nose, or mouth and makes him sick. Little things like that you don't think about until your child is diagnosed with celiac. I didn't know how serious things were until I did more research. Like no shampoos, body washes and stuff can't have oats in them. Found out the body wash I had been using on him like since he was a baby had oat protein in it, so had to get rid of that. And then I applied to be a tutor for the school system that my boys go to, so maybe I can hopefully make a little bit of money. And I'm still working on renewing my Virginia teacher certification, my license. So I have to do a CPR class, and then I have to do a whole bunch of online training for a bunch of different things, like child abuse training, technology training. I think the other one's like a dyslexia training, which is new. But it looks like my license can transfer to Alaska, so hopefully maybe I can get a full-time job when we move up there, which would be nice. I haven't been teaching for 7 years. I've just been keeping myself super busy with volunteering, getting certifications like my lactation consultant certification, and being a baby wearing educator. So it'll be nice to make money and not live off of one income anymore, because we've made it work, but it's been a little frustrating. Like when we had to get a new car and having to buy special diet food for Oliver because gluten-free everything isn't super cheap. But it's been honestly healthier for the family in general, because we buy a lot more of like meats and vegetables and a lot less processed food, which is good anyways. So cheers to that. But I don't have a whole lot to talk about with our lives. We're just one day at a time. We got a Super Nintendo Classic, which the boys are really enjoying playing along with my husband. He is a big Zelda fan, and the boys really like the Super Mario World and the Super Mario Kart. But for the longest time, they couldn't figure out that they didn't have to move the remote to steer, that they had to use the buttons, because they played Super Mario Kart at a friend and they had the Wii, and you just turn left and right. You don't have to really do much. And they didn't understand. They kept turning the remote and they're like, it's not working. I was like, you have to use the arrow button. And they're like, oh. It still took them a good day or two to figure it out. But it was kind of like a belated Father's Day gift for Jonathan. And then next month we are celebrating our 10-year wedding anniversary, August 8th. We've been married for 10 years. We've been together for 12 and a half. So since 2006. So yeah, 12 and a half years we've been together. And I didn't share it, but I am working on a little cross-stitch project that he doesn't know about for some Avett Brothers lyrics. I'll show it more when I have more than just 3 words done on it. But I'm hoping I can get it done by August 8th. So I can give it to him, and hopefully like in a decent frame so he can either hang it up at work or, you know, put it on his nightstand. It's ending up a little bigger than I thought it would be. It's going to be like 8 by 10 instead of like 5 by 7. No big deal. It'll be fine. Everything's fine. So I'm going to cut it now. I don't think I have much else left to talk about. I always say I have so much to talk about, and I like write notes and everything. I have my notebook in front of me, but then when it actually comes to recording, I keep looking at the time and I'm like, I've been talking quite a long time, and I'm sure these people have other things they need to get doing today. So I know I do. I have lunches to make and a splash pad to go to with some friends. Maybe a stop by the thrift store to see if there's anything worth getting. Since it's PCS time, the thrift store gets really loaded up this time because people are all getting rid of things. We do the same thing. So sometimes you can find some really good stuff on like clothes, backpacks, and stuff like that at the thrift store. So we'll see maybe if there are any goodies that we can pick up today. Usually lots of books too. So I'll stop right there and let you get on about your day, and hopefully I will see you guys in about 2 weeks. I'll try to record before we go to San Antonio, and then I'll see if I can record anything while we're in San Antonio. We're going to go to the water park, maybe paint some pottery, and then I definitely want to try to make it to one of the yarn shops that is there. I went to one last time, but now I don't remember the name of it. I'll put it down here. And if anybody that watches is in San Antonio and would like to try to meet up, then let me know. Also, any of my Canadian friends that are on the west side of Canada, let me know how I can drive through Canada to get to Alaska. So we have to try to start planning that for next summer. But okay. Thank you so much for stopping by and watching this week. I hope I will see you guys next time, and keep a lookout on Instagram for any knit-alongs or any other things that might be going on, and I will see you guys next time. Love you. Bye.